A card is selected, signed and lost into the deck. You perform whichever trick or routine you want, and then at the end of that, you are able to vanish the deck just by slapping it. One card remains, and it is their signed and selected card. This is a practical deck vanish that can be done in person, surrounded at your gigs, and it is a brilliant way of closing your routines. In fact, I'd argue it's one of the best ways because you literally make the deck vanish, and there's no better ending. The card can be handed out, you are left empty-handed, and this is the Slap Vanish. In my opinion, one of the most effective ways of ending a magic performance is by making the props that you're using disappear. So if you're doing a coin routine, a really good closer is making it disappear. It's such a full stop at the end of the trick, there's nowhere to go, the props have vanished, it's a magical moment, and you're left empty-handed. You've cleared up, you've done the clear up already. Psychologically to the audience, making something disappear is such a final thing. And in my opinion, actually rather controversially, if you make something disappear, you shouldn't really make it reappear. You can have teleportations, of course you can have an object disappear here and reappear there. But when something disappears and reappears in the same place, to the audience, I don't think that's really effective. I think that just makes them think that, oh right, it was hidden for a bit, so where was it? Whereas when you're left with something that has completely disappeared, that's really powerful because it's not just being hidden, it literally has gone, and that's the end of the routine. And at that point you walk off, you're on to the next performance, and you can do the reset. Obviously as magicians we know that the object actually hasn't disappeared, it is being hidden somewhere, but what a powerful thing to do, just to slap the deck and boom, you are left with one card, it's theirs, you hand it out, and you're done. I think it's a great way of ending tricks. It's how I end my card tricks, and today I'm going to teach you this secret. We are in December now, so consider this an early Christmas treat. I'm going to be using the Lady Moon playing cards in this trick, in this performance, in this tutorial, whatever the hell this video is. And this is a really nice deck of cards, really, really flamboyant, lots of gold foil embossing on the box. Unfortunately, we're not going to need the box, we're going to take the cards out and use this really, really artistic deck. However, this isn't a deck review, so let's not get carried away. Let's get right into teaching the Slap Vanish. I want to start with a little performance of the Slap Vanish, and the first one you're going to see, rather interestingly, is a test performance. So sometimes I do test videos of tricks, in fact nearly always. I think it's a really good thing to do. Watch back a trick, see if it's any good. Yeah, brilliant. If you're not doing that already as a magician then, I highly recommend it. So this is a test little thing that I put on Patreon. I was asking people if they thought this was any good, so here is the test footage for the Slap Vanish. I've been doing this vanish for a while now at gigs. Bit of a warning, doesn't play too well on camera, so imagine that you're here in person and understand that there's a bit of misdirection that just can't happen on camera. So you would say stop whenever you want. 4 of clubs is the card, great. For this, actually, I need my sleeves rolled up, so we'll take the deck like so. Now watch, 4 of clubs is somewhere in the middle. And with just a slap. So there we have a performance of the Slap Vanish, and it's really, really important to note at this point that you shouldn't perform it how I did then. I'm just demonstrating the idea of a closer, but this works 100 times better when there are tricks in between that. So you need to have routines, you need to have things that you can do before that vanish, remembering that this is just a closer. You have a card selected, in this case the Ace of Hearts, quite a nice card, and you lose it in the deck. And there needs to be a moment of misdirection. Now this moment of misdirection comes from the act of rolling your sleeves up, and it is in the act of rolling your sleeves up that the deck is going to be ditched in a rather unusual way. Some of you might already know because again it was on camera, but it's important to sort of understand the thing that comes before it. So, a moment of misdirection. How can this happen? Now, often misdirection is not actually what it sounds like. It's not misdirecting, it's directing. You're directing the attention towards something. And at this point, that needs to be sort of on them. You need to either ask them a question or you need to put the attention on them in some way. So you can say something conversationally that puts the heat on them for a moment and it takes the heat off you. And as you're doing this, you're casually rolling your sleeves up. You need to start with the left sleeve. Now, I'm already in the position I need to be, which is with a break above the top card. I should mention the card needs to be on top at this point. I just did a quick control then, but you can easily just cut the card to the top, or at the end of one of your routines you can just put put the card on top. You really don't need to know a control for this, because the card just needs to be on top. I would recommend learning a false shuffle, just a simple, messy overhand false shuffle. The way I'm doing that is just by holding the top card and shuffling like this. Really, really easy. There's not even really a technique to that. You just keep the card on top as you shuffle. So you can do one of those just to make it a little bit convincing that it's somewhere in the middle and not right on top. And then once you've done that, you're going to get a break underneath the top card. The way I like to do that is just push the top card off and then push it back and make sure that your pinky finger is slightly sort of keeping that open, so you have a little bit of a break, a little bit of an air break. A bit of air between the card and the deck. I feel like I say that all the time, but that is what a break is. You are going to begin to roll your sleeves up, and the deck at this point is in my left hand. So if I turn around, deck in my left hand, and I begin to roll this sleeve up. And I need to roll it up in a way so that my hand ends up sort of here. So I roll it like this. I can't believe I'm teaching how to roll the sleeves up. It makes a difference, trust me, it does. I've been caught out when I've not done this. So you roll up, your hand ends about here, this hand, and then you switch and you roll here. Now before that happens, you need to think about exactly what you're doing, because at this point the deck is going to be ditched. So you roll, and then your hands are going to come together. So once I've done this sleeve, my hands meet about here, and this is where the deck is going to be separated from the card, because what I'm going to do is now take the card, just the top card, and all I'm doing there is just lifting where the break is, where you had that pinky break. You've now separated the card and the deck, and at this point, once they're separated, I now carry the deck underneath to here. So the deck is just going to go from here to here, and then I'm going to pull. And you'll notice that the deck ends up in my armpit. And I was going to call this the armpit vanish, but I feel like that sort of gives away the game a little bit too early. So let's just go again. We've got the break above the top card. We roll this sleeve normally, arm extended. Then we switch, and as we switch, I mean, look how quick that was. It barely takes any time. You don't need to pause here. It's just sort of... I'm going to be shaking my sleeves down a lot in this video. What I'd actually recommend doing is practicing that little switch over move sort of in isolation. So you don't even need to do the sleeves at this point. You can sort of pretend while you're practicing, so you're not always doing your sleeves up and down. You can sort of do this and then just this move here. And you're just going to practice transferring the card from the deck back on over and over again, just to get used to that action. And then you can add the sleeves in, so we roll, we switch, boom, I'm here. That switch over move is a fraction of a second. It's a nothing moment. You don't need to worry about it. And you also might be thinking at this point, hold on a second, won't people see the fact that I'm taking the deck underneath my arm? And no, they won't, because your arm is going to block this whole action. So I roll, the hands come together for a split second, and the deck ends up about here. Now once the deck is here, I'm going to pinch the sleeve material, and bearing in mind my arm is on top of the deck here, and I'm lifting up a little bit to show you, it's going to be sort of around here, wherever's natural for you. You're going to pinch the material and drag, and as you drag, obviously the sleeve is rolled up, but your hand makes it to here, which is why it's really important to do the same on this side, because if this is different, you're drawing attention to the fact that this is different, and your audience is going to think something's going on with this arm, and it's not. You want it to be the same on both arms, except this time, your arm is going to come down, and as it comes down, you're going to let go of the deck, and you're just going to push the deck backwards a little bit so that it's down into the armpit. And now you're holding this, and it's really, really important at this point to remember that you need to be holding this like a deck of cards. So you can't be holding it like this, you can't be holding it like this at the very ends. Your fingers need to be over, which is why when you do that deck move and take the top card off, your fingers need to be over the deck a little bit just to cover the edges. Remember, this is happening for a fraction of a second, and I can be quite natural at this point. I know obviously you know there's a deck there, so you're going to be thinking there's something weird, but I can be quite natural, and you're only in this position for a few seconds because you turn and your attention is on this arm. The reason I do it here and not here is because there is going to naturally be a bit of tension because you're holding this deck in place. So to avoid that, to avoid this looking weird, you're not going to be dead on to your audience, because then it's going to be really obvious. So you're going to be here, the focus is now here, you can wait just for a few seconds, I like to leave it as long as possible, you know, before they start to work out, well before they start to work out this is one card. You just leave it, it looks like a deck, it looks like I'm holding a deck, and then you slap. At this point, because you're left with just one card, you hand it out to your spectators, and you're left with a really decent trick. And a deck under your armpit. Now what do you do with that? Of course that's the main question to answer. What do you do with the deck? And at this point, I mean, I'm being quite normal. I'm not really being any different to how I normally would. That's what's really important. And I guess if you're the sort of person that's constantly making big arm gestures, then yeah, this is going to look weird. And I gesture with my arms, of course I do. But at this point you need to be reserved. You can't do this because you're going to give it away. You need to be the same on either side. You need to mirror that. And so it's the end of the performance. You take a bow, you take a step back, whatever you do, you know, hand out the card if you wish, and you move away. And as you move away, this is what I do. And in just the simple act of turning round, I've retrieved the deck. So if I put it back in my armpit, this is what happens. Okay, the performance at this point is over. I tend to end like this, and then I turn around. This is the same act as reaching into your inside jacket pocket. If I was wearing a jacket right now, which obviously I can wear a jacket and move the cards to the outside. So deck is in the armpit. This time I'm wearing a jacket. There is no difference. As soon as you turn your back on your audience to move on to the next group of people, if you're at a magic gig or wherever you're doing, if you're doing tables, moving on to the next table, this act is the same as reaching into your jacket pocket as it is reaching into your armpit to retrieve the deck. It's just the same. You need to be really, really careful that you don't drop the deck, because that's just not a good look anyway, let alone in a situation like this. Just in general, dropping the deck is bad. So you go underneath. I tend to go sort of underneath, as if you're going into a lower jacket pocket. You go underneath and you go up and you retrieve the deck. And it's really as simple as that. And you'll be surprised that people don't see this, honestly. So this is one of those things, it's like a deck switch, you know, that people always go, oh my god, I'm not performing a deck switch, everyone's gonna see it. No one's gonna see it if you don't see it. You don't need to look, you don't need to care, you don't need to act like this is a thing. Remember, you're not even in performance at this point. You're moving between performances. And believe me, a magician at an event moving between performances, you can do whatever the hell you like. You can reset props, you can do anything. You've performed for one group, that is over. And as soon as that's over, you can do whatever you want. When you're not performing as a magician, no one's really looking at you, so trust me, no one's going to see you retrieve the deck. I'm going to take the jacket off though, just because it is so hot in here. And also, I'm proving that you don't need a jacket to do this. Too often, I think vanishes rely on jackets. I want this to be a trick that men and women and people that don't wear jackets and people that do can all perform this trick. This isn't a jacket-specific trick. I can't really stand those tricks, to be honest, because sometimes I don't perform in a jacket, so, you know, I don't want to have to change my repertoire because of what I'm wearing. It should just work no matter what. So there we have it. That is today's magic tutorial. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, you can express that through the medium of clicking the like button on the way out of this video, and if you've made it to this point, you might want to consider subscribing and seeing some more tutorials that I've made in the past and in the future. I mean, you can't watch the future ones now, but you can watch them when I make them. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.